Deadliest Discoveries don't just tell us a story, they warn us of what else may be buried beneath our feet. When you think of Yellowstone, you might picture roaming bison, beautiful nature, or peace and quiet. But beneath the ground, something deadly is stirring, and it could strike any day.
In 1965, NASA begins a mission to map the surface of the Earth from space. They plan to use state-of-the-art cameras mounted on satellites, but to make sure the images they are getting are accurate, NASA decides to make a control set of pictures on the ground at Yellowstone.
They're making this map of Yellowstone so that they have a baseline, and the person in charge, his name is Bob Christensen.
Yellowstone has the ideal geology to do this because the park is just chock full of geysers and these natural pools, all of which can test the real accuracy of these cameras.
Because Christensen is also a geologist, the National Park Service also has him collect rock samples that are later carbon dated.
These rock samples reveal something strange.
It turns out that most of the rock in Yellowstone is made up of something called rhyolite, which only occurs when you have lava flowing or volcanic explosions. But there are no active volcanoes in Yellowstone.
Still, Christensen's data doesn't lie. The bulk of the park's geology is the result of several massive eruptions over the last 2 million years.
There are hundreds of unique geological features across the park. So Christensen's first thought is that these were the product of an ancient volcano chain that has long since gone dormant.
But when NASA's satellite mapping of the park is finally finished in 1972, Christensen is shocked by what the infrared pictures reveal.
What the images tell him is that the unique geological features of Yellowstone were not, as he thought, formed by an ancient chain of volcanoes, but by a single supervolcano.
Of the over 1,000 volcanoes we know of on Earth, only about 20 are supervolcanoes. And this is one of the biggest ever found.
The biggest of these eruptions took place 2 million years ago. This eruption launched as much as 600 cubic miles of red-hot lava and rocks into the air. This is an explosion 2,500 times bigger than the Mount St. Helens eruption.
Surprisingly, Yellowstone's fury may not be finished.
Even though it has been dormant for 500,000 years, lava still flows in this massive supervolcano underneath Yellowstone National Park.
But in 2022, what scientists uncover is far more alarming than anyone imagined.
A study published in the journal Science shows that lava chambers under the park are rapidly filling.
This, combined with the fact that Yellowstone has over 3,000 earthquakes a year, leads some to speculate that the supervolcano may be preparing to erupt once again.
If the next eruption is anything like the last one, it would spew enough debris into the sky to block out the sun in the western United States for decades, leading to widespread famine and economic collapse.
Considering the Yellowstone supervolcano has remained dormant for over 500,000 years, let us hope for another 500,000 at least.
Not all threats erupt. Some, like one frozen killer in Siberia, melt.
In a small town in northwest Siberia, a farmer is surprised to find the carcass of one of his reindeer. Now, it's not unusual. Every now and then, an animal will die of some kind of natural causes. But over the next month, other local farmers watch as more and more reindeer livestock get sick and die.
In all, over 1,200 reindeer end up dying. At first, the villagers chalk it up to the stress the animals are undergoing due to that summer's unusually high temperatures. But then, suddenly, the villagers start getting sick.
"90 villagers fall critically ill and are hospitalized. Tragically, one sick child dies.
Doctors are completely baffled. They're running blood tests and throat swabs, but every test that they run ends up coming back negative.
Then finally, one test comes back positive, and the result is shocking.
It's Bacillus anthracis, but we know it more commonly as anthrax.
Most people think of anthrax as a biological weapon, but it actually occurs naturally in soils throughout the world. When animals like reindeer graze, they kick up the spores and form little dust clouds, and then the animals can inhale this and become infected.
Once it's in the body, the bacteria grows quickly. It causes fevers and difficulty breathing. And after an infected animal dies, its body decomposes, spilling even more anthrax spores right back into the earth.
The spores can sit there for decades, like this ticking time bomb, just waiting for its next unfortunate host. Even with treatment, the fatality rate in humans can be as high as around 80%.
As government officials rush to figure out the source, they discover that in the early 1900s, Siberia was ravaged by a series of terrible anthrax outbreaks.
More than 1 million reindeer died, with their infected carcasses sprawled out everywhere across this tundra.
Some of those remains were frozen in the permafrost, essentially refrigerating the dead deer and the bacteria inside of them.
But then, starting in the year 2011, the area has 5 years of unusually warm summers.
And the extreme heat begins to melt the permafrost, exposing dormant anthrax spores.
To contain the outbreak, officials scour the tundra, burning thousands of infected reindeer carcasses and vaccinating tens of thousands of living reindeer.
Gradually, this works, and the number of new cases begins to slow and then eventually completely stop.
But it's very likely that more pathogens lie frozen under the Arctic ice.
If rising temperatures continue to melt the permafrost, it is very likely that animals and humans will be exposed to these ancient pathogens, which modern humans have never had exposure to before. As one researcher puts it, this is Pandora's box.